EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 as we get closer and closer to Super Bowl 59. This week feels like the calm before the storm, Johnny Mack, as one of our great viewers in the chat just pointed out. How you doing on this Wednesday, brother?
Doing well. Trying to get back into the groove. Eagles, we don't have a schedule yet, but I believe they're going to practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week, at least tentatively. So we'll see how that shakes out. As Super Bowl 59 approaches, we'll see what they learned from it the first time.
No doubt about it. It should be pretty good stuff. Super Bowl 59 on the horizon. Feels good for this team to be prepping for another Super Bowl, their second in 3 years. Very impressive stuff for the guys. Johnny Mack, Nick Sirianni spoke yesterday. We got some updates, some news that we'll get to here in the morning. And then I want to do a early, I don't want to call it a game. We'll do an early exercise about this Super Bowl, comparing the two rosters. All right. So we'll do that a little bit later on, but let's hit on the news now. Nick Sirianni spoke yesterday. We'll start with that. Any update from him? Anything you can share with the great people of Birds 365 on what Nick had to say yesterday?
Well, obviously he's not giving you any info on the injuries, so
Yeah.
I know that's big for everyone. But I mean, anyone who's listened to Nick over the past number of years should know by now he's not going to give anything up when it comes to injuries. It just makes sense. I wouldn't expect when they do get on the practice field, Cam Jurgens or Landon Dickerson doing a lot, so I wouldn't panic. This week, obviously, it's about managing those guys to get to the football game. Brandon Graham, I know, is a big story. We talked about that yesterday. That's up to the doctors. You know, certainly Brandon would like to force it and try to play, but even if they do it out of deference and who he is and what he means to this organization, I would not think he'd be a key part of things. So I would temper that aspect as well. And then as far as, you know, handling the week and how it's different, he said there'll be some tweaks. He did admit that. Obviously, he doesn't want to talk about those, but you think about the history of Andy Reid in the bye week and Nick in the bye week, which is interesting. You know, Nick's been tremendous with bye weeks as well. So Andy's just a much larger sample size. So that's an interesting part of it when you have that extra time. And then probably the biggest news of all is that all of a sudden Kellen Moore looks like he might be the leader in the clubhouse for the New Orleans Saints job. So that's going to be a thing. Now you got to add that into the mix with the Chiefs are getting all the calls, people. I'm like, hey, don't watch it then. If you know what's going to happen, that's where I'm defaulting to with those people. So
The Kellen Moore stuff's interesting, John. I mean, and let me ask you a question, all right? And perhaps it might be the stupidest question ever, or it might be an ignorant question, and I'm perfectly all right with that, all right? Is every head coaching job really worth it? Like,
it's up to the individual, but there's only 32 of them.
Right.
It's like, you know, there's an old adage in politics, you know, the most exclusive club in the world is the U.S. Senate. Not really. There's more exclusive clubs, one of them being NFL coaches. There aren't a lot of these jobs. And, you know, if you believe in yourself, you believe in yourself. So, but I hear what you're saying. You know, you look at a Ben Johnson. I don't, and he, you know, begged off for a year, but he only begged off for a year. He knew. He kind of knew this year this was it. And he probably landed in a worse spot than he would have landed last year. It's hard to, certainly with Washington, you saw what happened with Washington.
Yeah, I just mean, like, you know, look at Shane Steichen. And I'm not criticizing Shane at all for leaving. I certainly understand it as a guy who has my own career ambitions. I understand that completely. But I look at some of the coaches that leave, and you look at the turnover rate of these coaches, and then more specifically, John, you look at the turnover rate at some of the shittiest organizations, and it's like, I'm sorry, I wouldn't want those jobs. I'd rather be a court. Now, again, I'm speaking from my chair. I can't speak for guys who are in that position or have the chance to advance their career. I'd rather be the coordinator on a Super Bowl winning team or a Super Bowl contending team year in and year out than coach the 8-9 Indianapolis Colts or go and try and revive the shitty Arizona Cardinals, or in this case, go to the New Orleans Saints, who really looks like a shitty job to me. Like he's got Jaylen Hurts.
I hear what you're saying, but I would say
I feel like Kellen Moore is going to have another opportunity.
I think there's some Eagles glasses coming out there.
Yeah, there might be.
I mean, again, if you're at that position in life, you believe in yourself, number one.
Right.
Number one. So you're not thinking like, oh, I can't, and that's, football coaches almost have to be relentlessly optimistic. I say it all the time.
Right.
Certainly in this era with this generation, because that's what they grew up with. You can't be Bill Parcells now. You can't call your best player she. You can't do it. That old hard Scrabble, it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, we can complain about it. I'm an old guy. You can complain about it all you want. It just doesn't exist. You have to be almost, as I said, relentlessly optimistic. So number one, that's the people you're dealing with. Number two, it's again very exclusive. Number three, if you pass something over, you might never get it again. So you want to take that opportunity. And you look at Robert Saleh, somebody who fails with the Jets, a bad organization. Hey, all right, he lands back in San Francisco as the defensive coordinator. You can always go back to that realm. You look at Dennis Allen, who Jeff Kerr makes fun of all the time.
Yeah, right.
All right, well, he lands back and he's the defensive. Matt Eberflus embarrasses himself on national television. Well, he's the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. You're going to be able to go back to.
Yeah, and Kellen's probably already proved enough to have that safety net forever. I mean, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I'm with you. If he takes this job, I'm with you 100%. He's likely going to fail. It's got nothing to do with Kellen Moore. It's got to do with the GM and the organization.
Right.
It's probably going to fail. Is he not going to get another offensive coaching job when that happens? No, he is. So, yeah. I mean, I get, and then there's the money difference. I mean, the highest paid coordinator in the NFL is Vic Fangio, $4.5 million. The lowest paid head coach is probably double that, close to double that. So,
well, that's enough of that. If you started with that, it would have made enough sense there from that alone. I mean, look, we all got to make money. I get that, no doubt about that. But I don't know, interesting. And it now certainly does look like John Kellen is the leader in the clubhouse because McCarthy withdrew his name. I think I saw Joe Brady withdrew his name. I mean, is there anybody else that's even in the mix?
Anthony Weaver is a guy, Miami defensive coordinator last year, came from Baltimore. He got an interview sort of understated because he's a defensive guy. They seem to always be understated. I don't know. You heard it was impressive, but remember who's driving all this. So it's always agents driving this thing. So I think the mentality, and you could see it from, what Mike McCarthy did, because I think it both had their druthers, Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys. They would have run it back now. But I think Mike thought either Chicago or the Saints were going to hire him. And he was like, all right, I'm done with this knucklehead. And I'm going to go be a head coach. And all of a sudden it doesn't go the way you expected. And you're not a head coach. And at his age, he may never be another head coach again.
Right.
And you got to hire somebody. And usually when these bad organizations wait to this point, because remember, everybody's hired except New Orleans. What do? They look at the Super Bowl coordinators. Well, Vic at his age doesn't want to do it. Steve Spagnuolo at his age, nobody takes him seriously. Matt Nagy's already done it and failed, even though he did a pretty good job, I think, with Chicago compared to the other people taking him to the playoffs. I think he gets understated a little bit, and that leaves Kellen as one of the Super Bowl coordinators. So we'll see how it shakes out. Cliff Kingsbury could wake up today and change his mind if they say, just like Liam Cohen, they say, we're not comfortable with Kellen Moore. Let's go give him.
Right.
When guys pull out, Joe Brady the same way. All right. Well, Liam Cohen pulled out. How'd that work out?
It's true. Come in with the right bag, or you meet whatever the demands are of the candidate. They could switch their minds real quick. So there you go, though. Kellen does seemingly seem to be the leader in the clubhouse for the New Orleans Saints job. Now, John, the procedure on that would be they can't hire him till after the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So they would just have to basically act like they're not.
Yeah. It'll come out that he's the guy, but they can't hire him until after the Super Bowl. And that's fine. It's not going to be a distraction to Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just giving.
I'm not saying I'm not picking. Yeah. I'm trying to be proactive here. Guy's never won a Super Bowl. Desperately wants to win a Super Bowl. This is very important for these guys. The two things could be true at the same time. He desperately wants to win a Super Bowl, and he wants to be a head coach.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to go into the Super Bowl not care. That's what one thing I think is a little bit tired and foolish is people who act like the coordinators are not going to care in the Super Bowl because they have a new job already. No, I think that's obviously clear, John. He wants to get that ring as well, just like everybody else does. It's a big feather in his cap as well. So we will say if John, you're early. I'm going to make you make a prediction. You think Kellen Moore will be the next head coach of the Saints?
I do, but yesterday I thought Mike McCarthy would be. So take it for what it's worth. Again, it's all agent driven at this time of the year. So the thought in the league was that Mike was getting the job. Now it's that Kellen's getting the job, and certainly by no stretch a guarantee.
Yeah, you can always tell when the agents put out the message too. Like I saw one about McCarthy. It's like Mike McCarthy has withdrawn his name. He is expected to be a top candidate in the next hiring cycle next year. I'm like, I'm sure Mike McCarthy is, right?
Yeah. So, we'll see. But, if he does, good for him. If he doesn't, he'll be back. Good for the Eagles. I know everybody's hyper focused on the continuity, yada, yada, yada. Well, here they are in the Super Bowl with a first-time coordinator. So that was the whole narrative. Well, it was the second year with Shane Steichen. Well, guess what? It's not the second year.
Yeah, but here's the pushback I'd give you. I know you're in the Super Bowl, but you certainly didn't get the most out of your offense and your quarterback because it's learning a new system every year. I mean, you know how complex these systems are. There is negatives to that. Are they inevitable? Yes. I understand when you say that, but it's not ideal, right? I mean, Patrick Mahomes comes in every year. Now, he's a different setup. He's a different beast. I get it. He's got the same offense every year. He's got the same thing. He's not worried about any of that. So from that perspective, I just think it would help Jaylen Hurts. I really do.
Well, I think if you look at the evolution of Andy Reid, nothing stays the same. But from the standpoint of how many different coordinators he's had over the years, Bieniemy was there for a number of years, couldn't get a head coaching job. Nagy's back, Mike Kapka, Doug Peterson. They've had a lot of turnover too. I get that it's Andy's system. That's why, way back in the offseason, it was more about Nick's system versus Kellen's system. That was the change. And they did it in 1 year. Has it looked great? No. I say all the time, technically, the offense was better last year. Nobody wants to hear it, but so it's all about it doesn't even matter. Can you win? Can you not win? The next coordinator, whoever it may be, if Kellen gets that job, will be shat upon if they don't win, and will be glorified if they do win.
I'm not seeing many people talking about Kevin Patullo like you are, but I know that Johnny Mack is always typically ahead of the crowd. So
Most people don't even freaking know who Kevin Patullo is.
I know they don't. I think this is a fair comment too, John. What do you think about something like this? Joe Whip. Joe, good to see you, brother. By the way, appreciate everybody for being here this morning. I forgot to welcome everybody in today to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 as we now get closer and closer to Super Bowl 59. I think it was Amber in the chat who said it's the calm before the storm. It is this week, and we are getting ready for the week leading up to the Super Bowl and then obviously the big game. So looking forward to that. Joe Whipp checks in and says, experience with different systems can be a positive also. I do see that as well. Joe Whipp, I agree with you. John, what do you think of that comment?
Yeah, well, I think all coaches have experience. All good coaches have experience with different systems, and I put that in quotations.
Right.
I don't. Sometimes fans think of that differently than I do, but what I mean by that is, and Nick Sirianni's a perfect example of this, in that, he built 3 different systems, helped build 3 different systems in Indianapolis because they had that weird upheaval when Andrew Luck retired early. And they had to build a different offense for Jacoby Brissett. And then they got Phillip Rivers, completely different quarterback. And they built pretty successful offenses around 3 different skill sets. And that's what good coaches do. That's what Mick does. I was talking to a former Eagles coach yesterday. And we were talking about Vic versus Steve Spagnuolo. And I'm like, I kind of... We talked about that a little bit, and I brought it up to him because he said something interesting to me. He said, inside the league, Steve is the best regarded defensive coordinator. And I kind of pushed back. I'm like, well, yeah, that's not what I get. Because I talk about all the coaches
right
all the time, starting McVay, the god of offensive football. They all say Vic's the most difficult to deal with, and they've proven it by hiring people to run what Vic runs. But to me, that misses the point, because that's not even like Vic's not the same guy. Even this year versus last year. He's been playing. If anything, he's been blitzing less. He's been playing more cover 3, even rolled out cover 2, which he rarely does against Washington, probably because of Jaden Daniels. I talk about that 6-man front in New Orleans. He's always shifting. So I think the people
is too, though. Isn't Spags kind of a chameleon too in the way he approaches each game?
Well, I think the thing with Spags, and he's very good. I think his sort of strength is the pressure packages on especially in big moments. That's his signature. But anyway, they're both very good. It's hard to rank them. But I would just say, the proof is in the pudding. Like, people hire Vic's scheme, even though they shouldn't, because that's not the way you should do it. But that's what they do. You don't hear a lot of copycats with Steve Spagnuolo. So, I think there's kind of a pushback. Not that it matters. They're both very good. But anyway, it was an interesting conversation.
No doubt about it. Johnny Mac, when we talked about this yesterday, the game ended. I listened to this. I heard it live. I'm like, interesting comment. I didn't think it'd be this big. I should have known. The media loves to, give a couple days or 2 weeks between the Super Bowl. They're going to make something of it. The straight jacket comments are now dominating the national airwaves. John McMullen about Jaylen Hurts in the straight jacket.
Flippant comments. I wrote about this on Sports Illustrated yesterday, before Tim McManus asked Nick the question yesterday. And it was pretty clear he was having some fun. And I'll retweet it if everybody wants to go to my Twitter at JF McMullen, or X. But to me, it's, and I said it. I compared it. This team, and specifically the on-field leaders, Nick Sirianni and Jaylen Hurts, one coach, one on obviously the quarterback. So the 2 highest profile people. They like to pretend they don't hear the outside noise. They always say, you hear them say, we don't listen, rat poison, blah, blah, blah. But they do hear it. And they show it every single time when things go well and the winning lines up with the style points. And they turn into Gronk spiking the football, the monster spike versus Barry Sanders. That was my comparison, who just found the nearest official and handed him the football.
Right.
That's what they do. They've done it historically. You go back to the Pittsburgh game and Jaylen started. Is that what you were all looking for? Whatever he said, paraphrasing. Spiking the football.
To see or something?
Yeah. Is that what you wanted to see? Yeah. Thank you. Nick does it all the time. That's what he was doing. I don't think it's a big deal, but you know, I do. My whole point is there's no disrespect of Jaylen Hurts. But if it fuels them, use it.
I think I believe that is what's happening. I mean, I think he believes there is.
Then that's fine. Hey, if he believes
and one thing I would push back on you a little bit on, because I agree with your sentiment. Every quarterback is under a microscope in every city. I do believe there's a little bit more of it with Jaylen.
I don't think that, Lamar getting criticized in the playoffs.
I don't know.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, Jaylen for
Josh Allen can't beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Josh Allen can't beat the Kansas City. Nobody else.
Yeah, but nobody in Week 14 is saying about Josh Allen. He can't win without all the talent. He can't win if you put the ball in him.
He goes through the entire
and make Josh Allen beat you. None of those narratives exist with those guys.
Really?
Now those are special quarterbacks, and they're maybe should be in the
I don't want to compare them as players, but where I totally disagree with you is that he gets that every day of the year in Buffalo. Can't beat Kansas City. Can't beat Kansas City. Can't beat Kansas City.
Yeah, but isn't that different than questioning someone's ability to like what? How many times have we heard? Take Saquon away, make Jaylen Hurts beat you. You hear that all the time. I think that's a different criticism of you can't beat Patrick Mahomes and the GOAT in the playoffs. That's not.
After watching the offense this year, I think any defensive coordinator would be an abject fool to not try to take Saquon away.
Oh yeah, I agree. But yeah.
So why is that disrespect? That's common sense. I say the same thing on the other side. When you're game planning for the Eagles as an offense, it's about Jalen Carter. You're game planning for Jalen Carter, first and foremost. When you try to stop the Eagles' offense right now, you're game planning to stop Saquon Barkley. At least you should be. That's not disrespect. That's common sense. He's got 2,400 rushing yards. He's going to break the all-time record. You're damn right. If I can stop him, I'm going to say, I guarantee you that's Spagnola's plan. Look, if he beats us, tip the cap. But I got to stop Saquon Barkley first and foremost. That's not disrespect. But going in with any other mentality would be foolish after watching 20 games this year by a defense. Would be foolish.
Yeah, there is certainly an element of truth to it where obviously with the way the offense has played out this year, it's obvious.
But, as everything in life for those old school television fans, everything comes back to Seinfeld. You can think everything can go back to a Seinfeld reference. And George Costanza, famous for lying, noted fabricator. Jerry asked him, "What's your secret?" He said, "Just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it." That's what I thought of. He believes it.
It's a good reference. That's a good reference right there.
If you use it, if you believe it, and it helps you, I just go back to 2017. I thought, and I got a lot of pushback on this because the Eagles were literally underdogs throughout the playoffs. And obviously the underdog mask, and it became a thing. But they were only underdogs because of the quarterback got hurt, who was going to be. They would have been significant favorites in every single playoff game.
Yeah, but what should have. They were underdogs without their
let me finish.
All right, go ahead.
They would have been significant favorites, not against the Patriots, because the Patriots were the Patriots. They would have been underdogs in the Super Bowl. But they would have been significant favorites over Atlanta and Minnesota at home if Carson Wentz didn't get hurt. My whole point is they made this out like it was tremendous disrespect to their entire team. was tremendous disrespect maybe for Nick Foles. But my point is everybody knew how good that team was, the rest of the team. At any time you lose your starting quarterback who's going to be potentially the MVP, yeah, that's catastrophic typically. Everybody knew how good that team was, and they played it up like everybody disrespected them. No, they didn't. They disrespected the backup quarterback as they disrespect the backup quarterback all the time. But that whole narrative was so overblown. But they used it and it worked. So great. I have no problem with that. But I do think it's nonsense. And similar here with the disrespect for Jaylen Hurts. And to use your example, yeah, I mean, people are going to try to stop Saquon Barkley first. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't that be the plan?
Where I 100% agree with you is who cares if they can use it, then great. What we're saying is basically just a conversation for you and I. If they can use it to help them be successful, great. I will disagree though, and I'll agree to disagree that I don't tend to. I think I'm in the middle on Jaylen. I love him at times. I have seen some of his, I don't want to call them deficiencies, but some of the stuff that I would like him to do better. But ultimately, I'm good because we're going to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. I'm not going to criticize the kid much more, but I feel like there is a little bit of an extra layer of doubt on him as a player, and it goes all the way back to where he started. I really believe that. Now you can disagree, but I believe there is an extra layer of doubt that's been added to him. Basically, at every stop.
And I think people are talking about different things. I think they're talking about engagement people. You know the names. I'm not going to bring them up. I'm talking about in the league, players, coaches. He's got tremendous respect. He knows it.
Yeah, but the problem, though, John, the problem is that the engagement people control a lot of the narrative.
Well, I can't.
In other words, 100 million people are going to watch the Super Bowl. 450,000 might know what you're talking about. 999 million see the talking points all year long.
Well, I can't control. Nick said it again anyway. Control what you can control. I can't control what people listen to. I can't control what people take seriously. I can't. So, I mean, there's nothing I could do about that. But if you ask me a question, just my opinion, is he disrespected? My answer would be no.
That's fair.
I can't control that other stuff or how much weight people put on that other stuff. If they just watch certain people, yeah, they probably think he's disrespected. That has nothing to do with Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and last week Dan Quinn and Joe Witt, and before that, Sean McVay and Chris Shula, who spoke glowingly about Jaylen Hurts. And part of it is Lou Holtzing it coming into the game. I get that. But you talk up everybody. But people respect this guy around the league. I mean, I talk about it all the time. He's a very unique player. And on the other hand, I'll say, he did well against the blitz against this team. Yeah, all right. Now he's got to deal with Steve Spagnuolo. That's a concern of mine. We're going to be talking about it all week and next week. His blitz ain't the same as Washington's blitz.
No.
Or the Rams blitz.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. Have they been good against the blitz historically with this quarterback? Not really. That's not disrespect. That's reality.
He's gotten a little better at it this year, but the problem is he's still taking some sacks on there, right?
Well, the problem is he's not totally comfortable with the typical way of handling the blitzes where, identify it, hot read, throw behind it, move on.
I do think, and maybe this is just and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but just an observation for me as I rewatched the game last week again, yesterday, and just from rewatching some of the games and looking at all 22s, it does look like Jaylen's doing a lot of checking in and out at the line of scrimmage. And when you have a run game that's as successful as it is, I think he does deserve some credit for that. Yes or no?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's overblown, but sure, as again, I would, and if I could find it, I'll put it up. Tom Brady explained this better than anybody else could possibly do. First of all, in modern offenses, generally there's two plays coming out of the huddle, and you'll hear kill, kill, kill all the time on the field mic,
Right.
where they're going from one play to the next. In the case of Saquon's 60-yard run, a lot of people made a big thing about that. What happened there is Jaylen killed to the second play and then readjusted back to the original play. That's part of good quarterback play. You're doing math. You're seeing where the opening is.
Right.
You're trying to get the extra blocker, and he did it correctly, so he deserves credit for it. Is it massively a huge deal? I would say that's just quarterback play. That's just what quarterbacks are supposed to do and do successfully. And the more you can do it, the better you give your team a chance. And that's what Tom was trying to explain, who's, nobody's ever done it better than Tom, but he's not running the game at the line of scrimmage, if people think that, but nobody is in the modern, for the most part. There are very few quarterbacks are trusted with that, like they were in the 70s or 80s, or now it's very structured. And that's nobody's fault. Just the way the game has evolved. And that's, probably something that should go, but we'd need 6 hours to explain the
Yeah,
issue.
really.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's got to do with egos of play callers and head coaches. And, if I have a great coach, my biggest criticism of Chip Kelly was that he would never want Tom Brady or Peyton Manning to be his quarterback. And if you don't want that, I don't want you as my coach. Because if your ego is so big that you think you know better than they know, yeah, get out. But that's modern football. I don't know if we'll ever see another quarterback like that.
No doubt. I will give credit. We do a lot of PFF, not too much PFF here, but we've had that joke around the show for a little bit. So I will reference that Jaylen Hurts, while we speak of him, was the highest graded.
Yeah, people like PFF this week.
Yeah, there you go, John. I was waiting for that comment.
Yeah.
Jaylen Hurts, the highest graded player.
Yeah, that's meaningful. Now, when he gets a bad grade, Zander, that's not meaningful. That's disrespect. That's disrespect.
Yeah, I was waiting. I knew once I said that was coming, but no.
It is hilarious to me. Like, people will cite it when they're good, and they will call it dreck or embarrassing when it's bad. He got a good grade because he played really, really well. It's funny how that works.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. We appreciate that. Appreciate everybody checking in. Suplex City checked in and said, "What's up, Suplex? Good to see you, my man." John, who is cornier, Jim Tomsula or Liam Cohen?
I didn't even see Liam's opening press conference.
I think Liam's gonna be all right, man.
I don't know. Jim Tomsula, boy, that was a weird hire back in the day. Boy, there's some bad organizations, man. But there's been a lot of corny, and depends on your definition of corny. A lot of people thought Nick was corny. A lot of people still think Nick is corny.
Well, Nick is. I
don't know. You got the high school
Nick
Harry
people, corny, but I think everybody's a little weird. John, I think you're a little weird. I think I'm a weirdo. I think the people in the chat are weird. Nick's weird. We're all weird. I mean, that's what makes us.
Everybody's got their weird. Yeah, I'm with you. Everybody's got their weird. I would I've hired Liam Cohen? No. Would I've hired Jim Tomsula? No.
Well, the thing with Liam Cohen that I dislike a lot more than him doing a goofy Duval and a goofy opening press conference was I didn't like the way he handled his departure from.
Well, yeah, that's my biggest.
And you talked about that. Yeah, it's a leadership position first, and if you're not grown or mature enough to handle that the right way, I think that maybe says a little bit more about how you do business, and I wouldn't like that. But
yeah,
look at all these people. Look, F you, Zander. I ain't weird. You're weird as hell, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, people. Disrespect, Zander. Disrespect.
Nah, I think he's just kidding.
No.
It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, oh, by the way, I should also mention LeBron James was in town last night. A bunch of Eagles went to see LeBron. Should mention that. It kills me. LeBron is so fucking famous. They're
They're fangirling.
like
It was
little
amazing.
kids. They're like watching a Taylor Swift concert, like a teenage girl. Yeah, it's amazing.
He's also massive. He made AJ Brown look
Oh God, yeah. Oh,
pedestrian. It's
people
crazy.
have no idea. For the years I covered the NBA, I got to know LeBron a little bit. I first of all, for who he is and what he does, and you saw it last night. Jason Demas from Channel 6.
Yeah, did you see that one after? Because a lot of people were sharing out the one on the floor. That was
Yeah,
different
the
than-
one after where he's
his interaction after was cool.
where he's taking time for all these people want
Yep.
he gets that every day.
Every day.
Every day. And I was amazed how grounded he was for who he is, because he's one of the most famous people in the world. Forget about the United States, because basketball is so popular internationally. He's one of the most famous people in the world. And even, he's Allen Iverson's mother is there and wants to sign pictures and hug him. And, all the Eagles are
Paris
there.
Campbell, yeah.
Well, Paris
Slay's
went
wife,
to Paris went to his high school, I think.
yeah, he did. St. Vincent, St. Mary. Yep.
Yeah. So he was the one who knows him off. I think Devontae knows him pretty well. I got to know him over that time frame. Incredible. I can't even believe how grounded he is for who he is.
That's cool. I'd like to, maybe in the off season we'll do that, John. Get some stories from your days covering the NBA, because you said you had a little bit. You said you knew, or you at least had a little bit of a relationship with LeBron. I'm sure you got some stories about that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys, a lot like Nick. I find that as a leadership, as somebody who understands. I know Saquon talked about this when he got to golf with Barack Obama. One of the things he tries to connect with people individually as best you can. So, little old me, LeBron James knew my name for a while, probably doesn't remember it now, but he's that guy. Like, he will take time. And again, it's always amazing to me when somebody's that famous and they're that grounded. And I think it speaks to his greatness as a player, because it's about so much more than just the talent, because there's a lot of talented people. But the really, really true superstars tend to have the work ethic, everything else, down to, even little things like treating people correctly. So, he's probably tired. He doesn't want to deal with all that, but he's sitting there saying hello to everybody who wants to say hello, which is like 1 million people every night. And he does it. It's pretty impressive. John Cena, for our wrestling fans, same way. Again, one of the most famous people in the world, because pro wrestling, for people that don't know, is very, very popular internationally. So, football is a huge thing in America, but again, we talk about it as they try to open up these international markets. Those guys are famous in France and Germany and Italy and Japan and yada, yada, yada. And everybody wants them, and everybody wants their time. And I know it would drive me crazy, and they somehow handle it, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. We got a lot of. I didn't realize we got a lot of LeBron haters in our chat. I'm not.
Oh, there's a ton of LeBron haters, and every single one of them has never met him, because I say the same thing with Nick. He'd win you over in 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Is he your GOAT? Are you have him over MJ? It sounds like you do.
He's very close. I think that's a debate, like we were talking about. How I describe it, I've always described it, is LeBron is the most well-rounded player of all time. He can do everything. Jordan was the great scorer, the great closer, the killer, so to speak. But I do find it interesting, and I have no problem who says Michael's number one, because he's certainly deserving of that title if you want to give it to him. But I just laugh at the people who say LeBron's not even in the conversation, because I hear that all the time. And I'm like, yeah, he's not in the conversation. He's freaking, I don't know what he is now, 40, 41.
Dude, what he's doing now. I'm not like, again, I'm not the biggest LeBron fan in the world. I do respect him, and my favorite part about him, John, is what you just explained, that he grinds all day, has a game at 41 years old, 18, 20 years in the league, has been famous with cameras in his face since he was 18 years old, and he takes time to meet every person, take every picture, shake every hand. That's what I like. I like good people. And I think LeBron does that at times. So I like that about him. But
yeah, well, and just I don't know what he is, a 20-time All NBA player. Yeah, he doesn't belong. I mean, those people are just ridiculously stupid. I mean, no offense, but and they just you have this weird. I love Jordan, and nobody could be compared to Jordan. And there's some on the other side. There's some. Torrey Smith and Howard Eskin used to have these conversations in the locker room back in the day. Torrey was a big LeBron guy, or it might have been Kobe. I don't even know. And Howard, of course, was the Michael Jordan guy. And, they're all-time greats. They're all in the conversation. But for those who don't believe that LeBron James should be in the best player of all time conversation, you're embarrassing yourself.
You got the hater colored glasses on. Again, I'm not the biggest.
You're embarrassing yourself. Embarrassing yourself.
He certainly is talented. No doubt about it. All right, Johnny Mac, let's get back into the game. We're going to get to a commercial break here pretty soon. We're going to talk to Brandon Lee Gouton in hour number 2. See what he thinks about this upcoming Super Bowl. We do have a couple super chats I want to hit on. Mac Main checks in. Look at this. Zander, this Stout U hoodie is fire. Whoever got a chance to win this thing, you won't be disappointed. Mine came in the mail yesterday. Thanks, Mac.
Didn't even know you had a Stout U hoodie.
Oh, yeah, we got the Stout U hoodie, Johnny Mac. I'll have to show. Maybe I got to get Johnny Mac a Stout U hoodie. Well, John,
that's one I might even wear. Probably not. So give it away. I'll
send Johnny Mac. Well, it's just got JAKIB on the front with a nice Stout U in the back. But Mac was one of our winners for it. I gave a couple out. So Mac, thank you, bro. Appreciate the super chat and happy you got your hoodie and happy you like it, more importantly. Man in Black says, Duval, he said it like he casted a spell on you to eat you in his basement later. It was weird. Guantanamo Bay, Hurts season, Louvu dirty. Man in Black standing in on the mountain.
Well, I think a lot of people don't even know what Duval means, that don't live in Jackson.
It's Duval County, right?
Yeah, it's Duval County. I don't know how many people know that, but yeah, it's become a rallying cry for some reason down there. But yeah, I didn't see it.
Duval by him. He could. There's no way you can't.
I didn't see it. So,
oh my God, it was bad. I mean, come on, man, give him a Duval. You're the new head coach of the football team.
Well, that's part of my problem. I often think about, how is that going to work? They always put cameras in front of these guys, and they gotta run the clown show, and they got to put it on social media, and they're not comfortable with it. So, I'm not going to kill him for that. I don't think he's going to be a good head coach because of what he did to Tampa, but I don't think he's showed much leadership at all and how that went out. But I'm not going to kill him for not looking good on the social media platform.
I just thought the Duval, I thought he could have put a little more emphasis into it. But hey, that's just me. Johnny Mac, I want to ask you about, and this, I'm going to ask you to opine on this, not because I know there's no report. I mean, on it. There's nothing yet. Dickerson and Juergens, what's your feeling going into Super Bowl? We're probably around 10 days, I want to say, maybe 11 days out from the Super Bowl. You feel like both of those guys are going to be good? I know Cam already said he was going to play.
Yeah, Cam. So did Landon. I don't know. Landon didn't talk to a lot of people, but yeah, he's going to play. He's going to play. It's just a matter of how physically they're going to be. At the end, before he left, he was limping around like crazy, Landon Dickerson. And I don't know if he can gauge toughness, but he would certainly be in the top. We're talking about best players. He would certainly be amongst the toughest players. He plays through everything. He's banged up this entire season. So little bit concerned with him. I know he's going to try to play, but how effective is he going to be is the question to me. But yeah, they're both going to try to play, no question about it. And I think he'll be fine as long as you got one of them, similar to that game. Not you'd like to have both, but I mean, if they're severely limited, what do you want? Tyler Steen at 100% or Landon Dickerson at 50% or
I think Tyler Steen deserves a little credit for what he's done this year. He lost his starting job, or not that he ever really was given it, but like he had to earn it and he didn't ultimately get it. Not everybody, I think, would not everybody would swim in that circumstance. I think there's some people who would sink at, losing the job like that. I thought he's done pretty good in his reserve role this year when he's had to step in.
Yeah, he's been. I would put him in Fred Johnson similar category. They persevered. They haven't been great, but they persevered. When they were forced into the lineup, I know we talked about Jaylen Hurts' great PFF rating. You probably don't want to look at Tyler's.
Not good.
I think it was second worst on the team offensively.
Who was the worst?
I forget. Let me pull it up.
If you don't remember, it might not have been a
Dotson.
Nah. The Dotson. Or Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, Tyler Steen, Jahan Dotson.
I should have known it was going to be Dotson.
Poor Dotson.
Did you see what? Go ahead.
Landon had a pretty poor grade, which is atypical, but that's because he was limping around like crazy.
Yeah.
And he wasn't healthy.
Holding call on the on the explosive run,
and that was a hold, by the way.
Yeah, well, it definitely was, but I think he did it clearly because he wasn't moving well. Yeah,
exactly.
So he out there. Yeah.
So, again, that's what you might be dealing with. A Landon Dickerson who's typically going to be up, with Lane and Jordan is now, the guy who played against Washington was not as effective because he was dealing with something, and you might get that in the Super Bowl as well.
Good stuff, John. John, did you happen to see what Andy Reid had to say about Saquon Barkley? He's prepping to face the best running back in the league this year, Saquon Barkley.
I did not. I can only imagine it was very complimentary.
Yes, it was. Now I know there's some gamesmanship there, but I do think Andy Reid knows how good Saquon Barkley is. I'll give you the exact quote. I don't know if he was on with Jeff Skversky or what. He calls him a running back who is arguably one of the best in the history of the game. And that was a quote from Andy Reid. So
that's not disrespect. That is not disrespect.
No bulletin board material there, John.
Yeah. Look, he's had one of the best seasons in NFL history. No doubt about it. Ridiculous. So, I mean, again, we go back to that original conversation. If you're saying, all right, we're going to game plan and we got to stop Jaylen Hurts in this passing game first and foremost, I don't know what you're looking at if you're looking at this film. Because the goal is, again, that's what the Eagles envisioned when they put this together. Pick your poison, but you got to pick your poison. And my poison is stopping Saquon, or at least limiting. And he's going to get his, but since we're NBA centric today, I've always made that comparison. All right, he's going to score 25. Make sure that's not 45, and make him work for that 25. That's the best you can hope for.
One more super chat. And by the way, I will say Ian Rappaport was just on NFL Network. All right, and say what you want about Rap Shape, but he is one of the guys who's in the mix in the NFL. He's in the know on most things. But
yes, he is.
Yes, so if he puts it out, it's it's coming from a good source. He put out, and this was a quote: Kellen Moore is in a very strong position with the Saints. So that's where we're at. I think we're going to lose Kellen Moore.
Yes, I mean, you'd like to keep them, but I mean,
Yeah, I
if
want
you
some continuity in them.
if you go to the Super Bowl, this is what happens, and how we explain that. And it's way better to go to the Super Bowl and lose a coordinator than to be 10-6 or be one and done, and nobody wants your coordinators. So, that's an entitled problem. That's a rich people problem.
Right.
And you'd rather have those than the opposite, I would say.
All right. Let me answer Stephen Patton. Stephen says, Johnny Mack going to New Orleans? Yes, sir. Johnny Mack will be down there next Wednesday. Johnny Mack flying into New Orleans. So we'll get some stuff from New Orleans from Johnny Mack. So good stuff there, Stephen. Thanks for the question, brother. I appreciate it. One more super chat. We'll get to them. We'll get to a commercial break. And then I want to do a quick exercise before we get to BLJ. We'll do that. Flexing and Steppin says, I don't want to meet dudes that partied with Diddy. Flex, I'm with you on that. And LeBron's been partying with Diddy. I don't know what's going on.
Did he go to the white part? I mean, yeah.
Oh, no, it wasn't the white part. Haven't you ever seen the video of LeBron floating around of him on FaceTime? And he says,
now,
ain't no party like a Diddy party. That's what he said. I'm like, oh, all right.
No, I didn't see it, but, I can't speak to what people are doing in their personal free time. But I've always said, be careful with hero worship, because everybody's a human being.
So true.
And you're going to be disappointed because and everybody who's ever taken a picture with Diddy or done a video now is getting that.
This ain't no picture, Johnny Mac. Yeah,
well, no, I have not. I'm saying anybody who's ever, same thing with LeBron. Like, how many people went up to LeBron last night just from the clips from Jason Dumas from Channel 6?
Yeah.
How many people went up to him? Now, I don't know all those people. Well, I know the Eagles, but all these other random people.
Yeah, right. LeBron.
What if they show up? Oh, he's with LeBron. I mean, it works both ways.
Yeah, I get you. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff. We will do a exercise on the Eagles Chiefs roster when we get back. What's Johnny Mac thinking about how these rosters stack up? We will run through that exercise next. And then in hour number 2, we have Brandon Lee Gouton from Bleeding Green Nation. So looking forward to talking to BLJ. That reminds me of who's a wrestler that Jody used to do that for BLJ? What's that?
RBD, Rob Van Dam.
Okay. All right. There we go. So a little throwback to what Jody used to do for BLJ.
Rob Van Dam.
RVD, that's what it is?
Yes.
And when you do this,
he would do this.
Yeah.
RVD.
All right, gotcha. All right, good stuff. Appreciate everybody being here. Don't forget to hit that like button for us. We appreciate everybody being here in the chat. Mac Main, what's up, brother? Flexing and Step. Keese, what's up, Keese? Chuck Hutton, good to see you, my man. John Secunda's in here. Sig Lure, James Jones. Suplex City, my guy Suplex. Brian Fleming, Brandon Howard. Appreciate all you guys. Don't forget to hit that like button. Birds 365 has been crushing it, and we appreciate that's mostly because of you guys. So we could talk into a void, but you guys show up every day for us. Bob Brown, appreciate you, man. So thank you all. Hit that like button, and we'll be right back in 3 minutes. Before I get to that break, let me just tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. If you love betting football and nothing else, well, you got one game left, and your Philadelphia Eagles are in it. So go and sign up now at BetUS. Use the promo code YouTube150. It gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third, and it's all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody, on Birds 365.
Ignite your nights with